Discover the amazing love story of a billionaire heir hiding as a simple employee. It will change everything. Ethan Mitchell's story was anything but ordinary. Once a golden boy, heir to a billion-dollar empire, he abandoned opulence for a life of modesty in a close-knit Midwestern town. Now a barista at Java Junction, he traded silk ties and glittering parties for warm smiles and steaming mugs. Every latte he crafted was more than a drink. It was an invitation to connect, a whisper of laughter shared between friends. With every pour, he infused hope, compassion, and the spirit of community. On one crisp morning, Sarah walked into the cafe, her cheeks rosy from the cold. She came like a burst of sunshine, her single mother's heart brimming with resilience. Despite their struggle, her laughter rang like a melody, echoing in the cozy cafe. A nurse by day, she juggled her responsibilities with grace, her love for her son palpable. Ethan found himself enchanted, drawn to her strength. Each chat was filled with warmth, a dance of stories traded like cherished treasures. They found themselves bonding over shared laughter, little victories, and the resilience that came from facing life's hurdles head-on. Yet, beneath that vibrant connection lay a storm brewing. Ethan became painfully aware of Sarah's struggles. A notice of eviction loomed over her head like an ominous cloud, casting a shadow on their blossoming friendship. His heart faltered at the thought, tightening in his chest. He wanted to help her, to sweep in like a knight in shining armor, but his secret threatened to unravel everything. What if revealing his hidden identity shattered the fragile bond they'd built? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The town rallied around Sarah, organizing a fundraiser to help ease her burden. Ethan rolled up his sleeves, pouring his heart and coffee into the mission. Each donation felt like a lifeline, yet the weight of his secret gripped him tightly. Would he have the right to help when he held the power of wealth that others could only dream of? The community's camaraderie was astounding, a beautiful tapestry woven with threads of shared hardships and collective triumphs. As the fundraiser approached, Ethan's heart raced with each passing day. Hope and doubt tangled within him, sizzling like coffee on a hot stove. And then, in a quiet moment, Sarah revealed the truth that shook him to his core. She knew everything. She had seen through his facade, yet she loved him unconditionally, prioritizing their love over his riches. A whirlwind of emotion turned in Ethan's heart: relief, fear, tenderness. If her acceptance was like standing on solid ground, then was he ready to build a future with her and her son? Just as deep-rooted questions began forming in his mind, something shocking threatened their connection, a whisper of Sarah's past that could change everything. Would this community, bound by struggles, accept them, or would it tear them apart before they even began to dream of a shared life? Ethan felt the world tilt slightly on its axis after Sarah's revelation. There she was, standing before him, golden hair framing her radiant face, her eyes reflecting both bravery and vulnerability. She had seen him for who he truly was, but now, an unsettling truth lingered just out of reach. Their connection felt electric yet fragile, like a fine bridge strung between two high cliff sides. The emotional storm brewed within him, sending waves of fear crashing against the shores of their newfound love. "How did you know?" he managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. The cafe buzzed around them, but in that moment, they were in a world of their own. It wasn't hard to see," Sarah replied, a soft smile touching her lips. "You have a kindness about you, Ethan. It's not something you find in every person. And your stories, well, they gave you away." Ethan's heart swelled at her words, yet a knot tightened in his stomach. "I want to help you, Sarah. I want to make things easier for you and your son." As much as the need to protect her flickered like a beacon, the fear of revealing more of himself gnawed at his resolve. She glanced down, the sudden heaviness in the air tangible. You don't have to carry that burden. I want to prove to my son that we can stand on our own 2 feet. I just need some time. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing a crack beneath her unwavering facade. Time was what he wanted most, yet it felt like sand slipping through his fingers. He knew the fundraiser was around the corner, and would place Sarah and her son under the spotlight. All eyes would be on them, and he couldn't erase the past or the future they might face together when the truth climbed its way up to the surface. As Ethan prepared the final touches for the event, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread building inside him. The bustling kitchen was filled with chatter and laughter, but his heart felt heavy. He looked up to see Sam, the cook and an old friend, tossing around ideas for the fundraiser. Sam looked at him quizzically, sensing Ethan's distraction. You okay, man? You look like you're about to drown in that espresso. Yeah, just a lot on my mind, Ethan mumbled, forcing a smile. Deep down, he felt the pressure of either revealing his identity or risking losing Sarah entirely. Later that evening, as twilight set in, he took a walk through the town square decorated with twinkling fairy lights. His thoughts drifted to Sarah and the affectionate bond they were forging. But how could he enjoy those moments when shadows of her past loomed darker than ever? Then, without warning, he spotted a familiar face in the distance, a figure standing alone. It was Matt, Sarah's ex, his demeanor radiating tension. Ethan's breath hitched. What was he doing here? Ethan felt an urgency pulse through him. If Matt was here, it could mean trouble. Sarah! He called out, his heart pounding. He had to warn her, before it was too late. What threat was Matt bringing back into Sarah's life? Would they be strong enough to withstand the storm together, or would this whisper from her past rip them apart? Ethan pushed through the crowd, each step taking him closer to Sarah. The lively chatter faded into a dull hum as adrenaline drowned out all rational thought. He caught sight of her, seated at a small cafe table, sipping her drink and lost in thought. The glow from the fairy lights made her look ethereal, but the sight of Matt looming a few feet away shattered the moment. Sarah! He said again, urgency pouring from his lips. She looked up, her expression shifting from confusion to concern as she saw the tension etched on his face. What is it, Ethan? She asked, her brow knitting together. Ethan darted his gaze toward Matt, who was still standing, his face a mask of unease and determination. It's Matt. I don't know what he wants, but you need to be careful. What do you mean? Sarah's voice was calm, but Ethan could see the vulnerability beneath her composed exterior. It made his heart ache. Just trust me. Let us get out of here, he urged, reaching for her hand. She hesitated, glancing back at Matt. I can handle myself, Ethan. We've gone through so much already. I just want to protect my son. Ethan swallowed hard but didn't release her hand. You don't understand. This isn't just about you. Matt may not be ready to let go of the past. I've seen what his anger can do. Sarah's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and for a moment, Ethan could see the walls she built around her beginning to crack. Maybe you're right, she finally said. With a quick glance back at Matt, she stood, and together they moved away from the cafe, Ethan's hand securely grasping hers for strength. As they turned a corner, he could feel the tension rising between them. He wanted to reassure her, to tell her that everything would be okay, but the truth hung heavy in the air. The fundraiser was coming, and her past wasn't finished with her. Ethan, I appreciate you looking out for me, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I need to face Matt. For my son, for me. I can't keep running. Ethan's heart sank. It's not about running. It's about safety, and he paused, realizing all too well the risk of opening up further. If she faced Matt, it would be like walking into a storm without an umbrella. Still, she was right about one thing: vulnerability was the core of their relationship. I know you want to protect us, she continued, her eyes piercing through his defenses. But I want you in this with me. We can't keep hiding from our pasts. Her honesty pierced through him, igniting a flame he thought he had smothered. He had to tell her everything, to lay bare the truth of who he was. The enormity of each revelation bellowed in the back of his mind, like a drum ready to sound. Okay, he said, drawing a deep breath. If you're determined to face him, then I'll stand by your side. But I need you to promise me something, anything, Sarah replied, her eyes steady and resolute. Promise me that you'll stay focused on what's ahead. We need to get through this together. She nodded, her grip tightening around his. Suddenly, a loud voice pierced through the night. Sarah! It was Matt, calling out as he closed the distance. Ethan felt his heart race, adrenaline taking over. This was it. Would their bond weather the test, or would the shadows of the past claim them both? As Matt approached, the air thickened with anticipation. What would happen next? Would they be able to take that leap together, or was this the moment where everything would finally shatter? Ethan's heart thundered in his chest as he stared at Matt, the anger radiating off him palpable. This was it. There was no turning back now. He could feel Sarah's tension beside him, a quiet storm brewing as they faced the man who had once meant so much to her. Matt's eyes narrowed, fixating on Ethan and then back to Sarah. You don't want to do this, he warned, confidence dripping from each word. You're just going to get hurt. Ethan stepped forward, instinctively placing himself between Sarah and Matt. You're the one who hasn't moved on, Matt. She's not yours anymore. Stay out of it, Ethan. The harshness of Matt's voice struck like a whip. This isn't just between us. You don't know the whole story. That's where you're wrong, Sarah interjected, her voice steady despite the anxiety coursing through her. I know enough. I need to confront our past, for my son and myself. I won't hide anymore. Ethan felt a mix of pride and fear swell in him. Sarah's courage was inspiring, but Matt's rage was a daunting beast. The crowd around them buzzed with curiosity, eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. He could sense their judgment, their gossip folding into the tension, heightening the stakes. Hidden away with you? Is that what she needs? Matt laughed bitterly. You think this is going to be some fairy tale ending? It's not. She's lost in a dream if she thinks you're her savior. Enough! Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the thick air between them. She took a step forward, lifting her chin defiantly. I'm done with this. You need to understand that I have made choices that are for my future. What future, Sarah? Matt spat. A future filled with lies? With him? He pointed at Ethan, but Sarah shifted closer to him, seeking comfort and strength in his presence. Ethan is different, she said firmly. He's not hiding. He's here with me. He fights for us, something you never did. Matt's face contorted with confusion and anger, as if her words had struck him physically. You will regret this, he warned, his voice low and dangerous. I won't let you walk away from me. Not after everything. Ethan felt a surge of protective instinct. You can't control her anymore, Matt. You lost that right a long time ago. An uncomfortable silence filled the space, the weight of history hanging heavily. People nearby began to whisper, sensing the charge in the atmosphere. Let us go, Sarah, Ethan urged, hoping to draw her away from the escalating tension. He could feel her hesitation, a conflict of feelings playing across her face. She used to love this man, and now, faced with a choice, she was wrestling with ghosts of the past. I can't just leave like this, she whispered, torn. Yes, you can, Ethan pressed gently, capturing her gaze. We have to. For your son's sake. Embrace what's ahead together. The moment felt electric as she looked back at Matt, a whirlwind of emotions reflected in her eyes. Then, slowly, she pushed away from the tethering past, stepping closer to Ethan. Let us go, she finally said, resolute yet shaky. Ethan took her hand, and they turned away together, moving through the crowd as whispers followed them. He could hear Matt's voice behind them, escalating with desperate fury. As they stepped into the cool night air, the tension lifted, but shadows still loomed ahead. Ethan glanced sideways at Sarah, her expression filled with uncertainty, but also a flicker of hope. What now? She asked, the vulnerability creeping back into her voice. A quiet storm brewed in his heart as Ethan pondered their next move. They had faced Matt, But the confrontation had only deepened the shadows. We prepare. The fundraiser is still coming, and we need a plan, he replied. Together? She asked softly. Always, he affirmed, pulling her into his side for warmth, ready to face whatever storm awaited them. But as they started walking away, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Matt wouldn't just let them go so easily. Would their resolve be strong enough when the real battle began? The drive back was quiet, the weight of the earlier confrontation heavy in the air. The cool night surrounded them, a calming contrast to the storm they had just navigated. Ethan kept his eyes on the road, heart racing with the reminders of Matt's threats. He could feel Sarah's gaze on him, searching for reassurance that he wasn't sure he felt. Ethan, she finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly. What if he doesn't let this go? Then we face him. Together, Ethan replied, forcing a confidence he wasn't entirely sure he had. He may think he can intimidate you, but you stood tall today. That's what matters. She smiled faintly but didn't reply. Her thoughts were likely swirling with fear and memories. Ethan's grip tightened on the steering wheel. It frustrated him that Matt's influence still loomed so large over her life, even after everything. When they reached her apartment, a mood of somber resignation settled in. Sarah hesitated at the door, a mix of emotions battling within her. Ethan sensed a pull between wanting to find comfort in the familiarity of her home and a reluctance to let the shadows of her past linger. Do you want to talk? He offered, stepping closer, his presence inviting. I don't know if talking will help, Ethan. Her voice cracked, and he took another step forward, closing the space between them. It might help more than you think, he pressed gently, hoping to break through the walls she had built. Sarah looked up, tears glimmering in her eyes. I keep thinking about all the love I had for Matt. How real it felt, and now. She shook her head, frustration bubbling up. Why can't I just forget? Because it was real, he affirmed softly. But it doesn't have to define you. You're not that woman anymore. She nodded slowly, but her uncertainty hung in the air. Ethan's heart sank. He wanted to fight that uncertainty for her. A soft beeping broke the moment, her phone vibrating on the counter. Sarah reached for it, glancing at the screen. It's a message from Matt, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't open it, Ethan advised, feeling his pulse quicken. I have to know what he wants. Before he could stop her, she had already opened the message. It was a simple text, but one that dropped like a stone into the pit of his stomach. We need to talk. In person. You know I want to give up. She swallowed hard, biting her lip as the implications washed over her. Ethan felt a swell of protectiveness. You don't have to meet him, Sarah. You can choose. But he's the father of my son, she countered, her voice thickening as tears began to brim. What if he threatens me again? What if he tries to hurt you? I won't let him, Ethan vowed, his tone fierce now. He won't have that power again. Silence filled the room, heavy and thick, as the reality of their situation sank in. They were at a crossroads, and Ethan could feel the weight of it on his shoulders. I need to make a decision, she said finally, her eyes darting uncertainly between him and the phone's screen. Whatever you choose, I'm here, he reassured her, stepping closer still. But you have to do this for yourself, not because of him. As she locked eyes with him, he saw a flicker of resolve. Okay, she whispered, a newfound determination blooming in her gaze. I won't let him dictate my life anymore. Ethan felt a rush of warmth flood through him. They weren't just fighting against Matt. They were fighting for a future, for hope. But the night felt far from over. Just then, a faint knock echoed from the door, sending a bolt of tension through both of them. The heartbeat in his ears thrummed louder. Who is it? Sarah asked, her voice suddenly tight with anxiety. You stay right here. I'll check, Ethan commanded, moving to the door with caution. As he reached for the handle, his heart raced. Whoever it was, something told him their lives were about to take another turn. Would it be Matt coming to escalate the tension, or someone unexpected with the power to change everything? Ethan hesitated, his hand hovering over the doorknob. The knock came again, a little louder, and he could feel the tension vibrating through the air. He glanced back at Sarah, who stood frozen, her eyes wide with anxiety. He nodded reassuringly and turned the knob, breathing deeply as he opened the door. Standing on the other side was an unexpected sight: a tall woman in a dark coat, her hair pulled back into a tight bun. She had an air of authority about her, but there was a kindness in her gaze that softened the edges of her stern demeanor. "Can I help you?" Ethan asked cautiously. "Are you Ethan?" she said, her tone clipped but polite. "Yes?" "I'm Detective Harper," she introduced herself, holding up her badge. "I need to ask you a few questions about Matt." Ethan's heart dropped. "What's this about?" "May I come in?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder as if assessing the street. Uninvited, she stepped inside without waiting for his response. Sarah's eyes darted between Ethan and the detective, her worry deepening. "Don't worry," Ethan said quickly, turning to Harper. "This is Sarah. She's involved." The detective looked over Sarah, her expression softening slightly. "I understand. But it's important you both hear what I have to say." "Okay," Ethan replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Harper's demeanor shifted, becoming serious. "We've received multiple reports about Matt's behavior. He has crossed lines, aggressive behavior towards various individuals associated with him." She leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice. "One of his former associates even mentioned threats, real threats. He's not just angry, he's dangerous." "Great," Ethan said under his breath, frustration bubbling. He felt the weight of Matt's dark reach tightening around them again. "What does this mean for us?" Sarah's voice trembled, fear creeping back into her features. "It means you both need to be careful," Harper replied. "He has a history of escalating his threats, especially when he feels backed into a corner. I advise you to take every precaution possible." Ethan felt his protectiveness shift into overdrive. "We won't sit by and let him intimidate us," he declared, surprising even himself with his fierce resolve. "If he tries anything, he'll have to go through me." "Don't underestimate him," Harper cautioned. "He might resort to anything to maintain his control. I'd strongly suggest considering a restraining order or even relocating for your safety." "We're not going to run away," Sarah interjected, her voice stronger now, renewed by the detective's warnings. "But we won't let him dictate our lives anymore." Ethan shot her a proud look, feeling that same flicker of resolve spark back to life. But the stakes were suddenly higher, and he felt the reality of their situation pressing down even harder. The urge to fight back was strong, but he also felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "Have you thought about getting legal assistance?" Harper asked, pulling out a card from her coat. "My partner can help you with this. They're familiar with how to handle situations like yours." As Sarah took the card, their eyes locked, sharing an unspoken understanding of the battle ahead. They would have to face Matt, but they were not alone anymore. Yet pressing uncertainty remained, like a cloud hanging over their heads. "Thank you, Detective Harper," Ethan said, his voice firm. "We'll take your advice seriously." With a nod, the detective turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Just remember, you need each other. Don't let fear drive a wedge between you. Lean on each other in this." As she walked away, Ethan closed the door softly, turning back to Sarah. "We can't let him win." "Not now," he reassured her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. But what if her voice faltered, a new wave of fear surfacing? "Whatever happens, we'll face it together," he said, pulling her in closer. Tension hung thick in the room, but beneath it was something strong: hope. And with that hope came a new sense of purpose. Suddenly, Sarah's phone vibrated again on the counter, the screen lighting up with an incoming message. Both their hearts lurched at the same time. "Who is it now?" Sarah murmured, dread creeping back. "I don't know," Ethan said, tension returning. "But we might not want to find out in that moment." They both realized this was far from over. New challenges were on the horizon, and they needed to prepare for whatever was coming next. Ethan's heart pounded as Sarah reached for her phone. They were caught in a standoff with their dread, both of them waiting for the words to materialize on the screen. Sarah's fingers trembled as she unlocked it, her breath caught in her throat. What does it say? Ethan asked, almost afraid to know. She winced. It's from Matt. A wave of anxiety crashed over them. He stepped closer, peering over her shoulder as the message appeared. It was stark, chilling, 3 simple words: I know everything. Ethan could feel Sarah's pulse quicken beside him. What does he mean? Panic dripped from her voice, each word heavy with fear. I don't know, he muttered, his mind racing. But we can't let him get to us. Let us think this through. Sarah's eyes widened. Think this through? He knows we've talked to the police. He is not just going to sit back and let this happen. He wrapped his arms around her waist, grounding her with the strength he hoped to convey. His threats mean he is worried about us. We have the upper hand. We're not alone anymore. Remember what Detective Harper said. We just need to stay smart and cautious. Smart? Sarah repeated, shaking her head. It feels like a game of chess, but he is playing for keeps. Ethan held her gaze, finding a flicker of resolve behind her fear. Then we play our game. We need to make a plan. As the words left his mouth, his mind began to formulate a strategy. They needed more than just awareness. They needed to be proactive. Let us keep a low profile. Don't respond to his messages. We'll document everything. Whenever he reaches out, we'll capture it. Sarah nodded, absorbing his words, yet he could see doubt still lingering in her eyes. But how can we know we're safe? That he is not watching us right now? Ethan forced a reassuring smile, though deep down, uncertainty gnawed at him too. We can't stop living. We have to keep going. We'll tighten our security, share everything with Harper. And we can get some cameras installed around here. Cameras? She echoed, the thought igniting a spark of determination. You really think that'll help? Absolutely, Ethan said, his confidence rising. They'll give us a level of assurance. And if Matt tries anything, well, there is evidence. She seemed to take comfort in that, her tension easing as the gears turned in her mind. Okay. We start with the cameras, and then we contact Harper. Maybe she has more suggestions. Just as they settled into this plan, Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time, a different number flashed across the screen, one that neither of them recognized. Ethan felt his breath catch again. Who is it this time? He asked, reluctantly releasing her so she could see. I don't know, she answered, hesitation lacing her voice. But before either could deliberate, she pressed open the message. A single photo appeared, grainy but unmistakably familiar, their car parked outside their apartment. Ethan! Sarah gasped, stepping back in horror. He is watching. His heart sank as rage and fear intertwined. This wasn't just a threat anymore. It was an invasion of their privacy. We need to act, and fast, he said, tension coating his voice. Just as they were about to regroup, Ethan's thoughts raced. He was angry enough to take risks, but he had to think rationally. Call Harper right now. We need her here. There is no more time to waste. In that moment, uncertainty loomed over them like a dense fog. They were on the precipice of danger, but they were determined to fight back together. As Sarah dialed Detective Harper, Ethan scanned the room, half expecting to see shadows lurking in the corners. The reality of their situation was sinking in harder, and his heart wrestled with a new fear. What if Matt escalated things further? What would they do then? The phone began to ring, and the waiting was killing him. Ethan, stay focused, Sarah urged quietly. We're in this together. But as they waited for the detective to answer, an unsettling thought gripped Ethan with icy fingers. What if Matt wasn't the only threat they faced? Ethan's heart raced as the phone rang. Each tone seemed to echo their vulnerability, a reminder that they were far from safe. He stole a glance at Sarah, whose face was a mixture of fear and determination. She pressed the phone closer to her ear, waiting for Harper to pick up. Come on, she whispered under her breath, barely audible over the ringing. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. Every creak of the floor, every rustle of a curtain felt like a sign of Matt's dark presence. He glanced out the window, scanning the shadows in the parking lot below. Was he lurking there, just out of sight? Detective Harper, a voice came through the line, sharp and professional. Detective, it's Sarah. We need your help. We received a message from Matt. And, he's been watching us. There was a steady edge to her voice, but Ethan could hear the tremor lurking below, a crack in her facade. Tell me everything, Harper replied, the urgency in her tone cutting through the tension. Ethan leaned closer, listening intently as Sarah filled her in on the chilling details, the messages, the grainy photo, the fear that gripped them like a vice. Stay put, Harper instructed firmly. I'm sending a unit to your location. Lock the doors and avoid drawing any attention. Don't leave each other's sight. Okay, we will, Sarah replied, her new resolve sparking a warmth in Ethan's chest. As they hung up, the silence settled like thick fog around them. What now? She asked, her voice steadier now, almost defiant. Now we secure the apartment, Ethan said, moving through the main room, checking locks, pulling curtains tight. The cameras will help, but we should hide any gaps. He might know about the police, but he can't know everything we're doing. Together, they moved as a team, gathering their thoughts and supplies. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Matt was closing in. Every moment felt like a countdown, and they needed to stay one step ahead. Do you think he has someone watching us? Sarah asked quietly, her eyes darting around the room as if Matt could pop up at any moment. I don't know. Ethan's voice was more certain than he felt. But we need to be cautious. No phone calls, no texts without thinking first. Got it. Sarah nodded, her determination reignited, making him feel like they could face anything together. With each lock clicked and curtain drawn, Ethan felt more connected to her. They were both scared, very scared, but their fear didn't consume them, it fueled their fire. He saw the steely resolve in her eyes, pushing him to fight back, even when doubt loomed like a storm cloud. Just then, a sudden noise broke through their muffled world, an unmistakable sound of metal scraping against metal outside. Ethan's heart dropped. What was that? Sarah whispered, her body tensing beside him. I don't know. Ethan moved to the window, carefully peeling back the curtain just enough to peek outside. His breath caught in his throat when he spotted an unmarked van parked awkwardly near their car, the engine running, a figure inside. Ethan? Sarah's voice broke through the budding panic, her hand gripping his arm. We need to call Harper back, he said, his voice low and urgent. This isn't just Matt. Just as Sarah reached for her phone, the van door swung open, and a shadowy figure slipped out, scanning the street. The figure turned toward their apartment, and Ethan felt a cold sweat break out across his forehead. Get away from the window, he whispered, instinctually pulling Sarah back just as she froze in fear. Who is that? She hissed, tremors returning to her voice. Stay focused, Ethan said tightly. We'll figure this out. We're not alone, remember? She asked, sending help. They huddled close in the dim light, breathing in sync, wondering who else was entangled in this nightmare. What had they really gotten themselves into? As the figure moved closer, dread pooled in Ethan's stomach. This was only the beginning. They were grappling with forces much darker than they ever anticipated. Who were they really up against? Ethan's heart thudded in his chest as he strained to see the figure outside. With each slow step, dread twisted tighter in his gut. The shape was tall and broad-shouldered, and the way it moved was eerily confident. Do you think he saw us? Sarah's whisper was barely a sound, hovering in the tension of the air. I don't know, Ethan said, still watching, his breath shallow. But we can't wait to find out. The figure paused, glancing around before taking a few more steps forward. Ethan caught a glimpse of a face illuminated by the flickering streetlight, a familiar face that sent alarm bells ringing in his mind. Wait, he breathed, recognition shocking him. It was Adam, a guy from their college days, someone Ethan had never thought he would see again. What is he doing here? Do you know him? Sarah asked, her grip tightening on his arm. Sort of. We've hung out a few times. But that was before everything happened, Ethan replied, his thoughts racing. The last time he saw Adam was during a party where they had talked about dreams and ambitions. But now, the dream was shattered, replaced by this surreal nightmare. What if he's working for Matt? Sarah suggested, her fear creeping into her voice. Ethan shook his head, trying to make sense of it all. I don't think so. But we need to be careful. With a sudden resolve, he decided to creep toward the door. Stay here, he whispered urgently. I'll go see what's going on. Ethan, don't. But he was already moving, buoyed by adrenaline and a thread of hope. If Adam could help if he wasn't involved in this darkness, then maybe they could get some answers. He eased the door open just enough to slip outside, the cool night air hitting him like a wave. Ethan kept low, moving cautiously toward Adam, who stood in the shadows, peering up at their apartment. Adam! Ethan called softly, hoping to cut through the tense silence. The figure whipped around, eyes wide. Ethan? Is that you? Adam stepped forward, and the recognition in his voice was almost a breath of relief. What are you doing here? Ethan said, keeping his voice low. You shouldn't be. It's not safe. I know, man, I was trying to reach you, Adam said, glancing nervously over his shoulder. I saw what happened with Matt. I heard he's been watching you. I came to warn you. Warn us? Ethan felt a rush of confusion. What do you know? I have a friend in the police department who gave me a heads up. Matt's been connected to a few other incidents. This isn't just about you and Sarah anymore. He's escalating. The urgency in Adam's voice was palpable. Ethan's heart sank. They were caught in a tangled web, threads pulling tighter. We just talked to Detective Harper. She's sending help. Not fast enough. We need to get you out of here before it's too late. I can take you somewhere safe, Adam insisted, glancing back again. Ethan hesitated. Trust. It had become a rare commodity. But if Adam was genuinely trying to help, they might not have another option. Sarah sighed. I need to talk to her. Do it fast. We might not have much time, Adam urged, bringing Ethan back to focus. As Ethan rushed back inside, he found Sarah pacing, her worry palpable in the dim light. It's Adam, he said breathlessly. He says he can help us. Help us? Or lead us into a trap? She shot back, her skepticism evident. He's not like that, Ethan insisted, though a sliver of doubt remained. We don't have time to think this through. Are you sure? She pressed, wide eyes searching him for assurance. Do we have a choice? Ethan replied, sensing the weight of their situation. Outside, Adam glanced nervously around, as if sensing the gathering storm. They had to act, and quickly. Sarah, we need to decide, Ethan said firmly, his heart pounding not just from fear, but from the rush of adrenaline and lingering hope. Okay, she finally said, resolve starting to show again. Let us go. Just as they stepped outside, a car roared to life down the street, its headlights illuminating their faces like a harsh spotlight. Ethan froze, adrenaline flooding his senses. The stakes were higher than they had ever imagined. Run! Adam shouted, and without thinking, they dashed into the shadows, his heart racing in sync with the thud of impending danger. What were they running from? And what would they find as they plunged deeper into uncertainty? Ethan's legs pumped as they sprinted down the alley, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. There was no time to question, no time to second-guess. Behind them came the unmistakable roar of an engine, a malevolent growl that sent panic coursing through him. Where's south the safe place? Sarah's breath came in sharp gasps beside him, fear and determination mixing in the fire of her voice. Just a little further, Adam called out, glancing back and urging them forward. The tension in the air hummed palpable, as they dashed past the flickering lights. Shadows danced around them, but the darkness didn't intimidate them anymore. It spurred them on, reminding them of the stakes at play. Suddenly, the alley opened up to a small parking lot illuminated by a few half-burnt streetlights. Agitated whispers filled the air. It was a gathering place for friends, or so it used to be. Now, it felt like a battlefield. Get in! Adam pointed to a nondescript car parked at the edge. doors wide open like welcoming arms. Ethan pushed Sarah ahead of him, protecting her as they ducked into the back seat. He threw a glance back down the alley, every instinct screaming that danger was hot on their heels. As soon as Adam slid into the driver's seat, the urgency in his expression was clear. "I know it looks bad, but trust me. We need to get out of here now." "Where are we going?" Sarah asked, glancing at Ethan, the spark of protective resolve still shining in her eyes. Adam didn't hesitate. "To a friend's place. She can help us. But we have to move fast." As they tore through the streets, the gravity of the night washed over them in waves, pulling them into a frantic whirlwind. Ethan's heart raced not just from fear but from an overwhelming sense of love and commitment to Sarah. Gone were the days of hiding, they were fighting for their future now. Ethan turned to Sarah, trying to catch her gaze. "Are you okay?" "I will be," she replied, determination cutting through the chaos. "We'll figure this out." The thought of Matt's threats loomed, but they had a fire now together, they were unstoppable. Minutes later, Adam pulled up to a small, unassuming house surrounded by an iron gate that felt more like a bastion of safety than just another home. It was nothing flashy, but it felt like a sanctuary, a stark contrast to the storm swirling outside. "Stay close," Adam whispered as they navigated through the cracks of light peeking through heavy curtains. They stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind them filled with the weight of hope. "Maria!" Adam called, his voice echoing faintly in the hallway. "We need your help." Out stepped a woman with a contagious energy that seemed to fill the air. "What happened?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Matt," Ethan replied, instinctively stepping in front of Sarah. "He's not going to let this go easily." Maria motioned them forward. "You're safe here. We'll figure out what to do together." After explaining their situation, her calm demeanor washed over them like a soothing balm. As the hours passed, Ethan felt a refuge in the company of Maria, who navigated the chaos with grace and poise. They stored important details, conversations, messages, everything documenting their painful reality, preparing themselves for the inevitable confrontation ahead. "I'll contact the police again," Maria said at one point. "They need to know the full story, including any evidence you have." Ethan nodded, feeling the gears of their plan click into place. They were gathering not just information but strength. And as Sarah worked beside him, tirelessly organizing their files and keeping spirits high despite the weight of looming threats, he felt a fire that ignited in his heart, a fire that said they could truly beat this together. When the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of dawn, the panic of the night before was replaced with a newfound sense of purpose. Ethan glanced at Sarah, her vulnerability now laced with resilience. "Whatever happens next, we face it together," he said softly, brushing his fingers across her cheek. "No more hiding." "Agreed," she said firmly, her gaze sharp like glinting steel. The next days were a blur of preparations. Detective Harper stayed in close contact, strategizing next moves, and the atmosphere shifted from fear to fierce resolve. On the night of the fundraiser, the stakes were high, but hope swirled around them like a warm embrace. They stood side by side in the Java Junction, the heart of their community. As familiar faces filled the cafe with anticipation, the buzz of excitement overtook the room. Ethan felt Sarah shift beside him, her presence grounding him. They were part of something bigger now. "I can't believe all of this support," Sarah marveled, her voice filled with disbelief. Ethan nodded, nearly choking on the gratitude swelling in his chest. "It's incredible, but it's just the beginning." As the event kicked off, the atmosphere buzzed with energy, laughter, and camaraderie. They welcomed donations, smiles spreading like wildfire, filling their spirits with hope and strength. Even amidst the excitement, Ethan's thoughts flickered to Matt, but the fear had transformed into determination. They would no longer allow him the power to cast shadows over their lives. In a moment of gratitude, Sarah caught Ethan's gaze, vulnerability stretching through them both. "Whatever happens after this, I choose you," she said, her voice firm like a promise carved in stone. Moved, Ethan stepped closer, sealing their bond in that elegant simplicity. "And I choose you. Always." As the event wound down, The community rallied around them, lending support and love that felt palpable. One by one, each face reflected hope and strength, shouting defiantly into the storm. But just when Ethan thought they had caught a breath, the moment coiled tightly. A familiar figure appeared in the doorway, the shadows hinting at malevolence that turned their moment of celebration into a charged silence. Matt stood there, staring through the crowd, fury blazing in his eyes. Ethan's heart raced, but he felt Sarah's grip tighten around his arm. Now or never, he whispered, feeling the electric pull of their shared resolve. They would fight together, unified in love, prepared to face whatever hell Matt would rain down. It was time to take back their power, time to put an end to the darkness and step into the future they had dreamed of. With a rallying breath, Ethan stepped forward into the light, prepared to confront whatever awaited him. And through the weight of the moment, hope surged within him, pushing them to stand resilient against the tide. Family, love, and community, these were their shields. This was their time. He took Sarah's hand tightly, and together they stepped towards their destiny. In that moment, they understood good could prevail. They were ready to transform the darkness into light, and nothing, not even Matt, could break the bonds forged in love. As the energy in the cafe swirled around them, the battle ahead didn't matter. Build the future together, they were a force to be reckoned with, and they would carve their path forward, side by side. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and keep these incredible tales alive. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Spread the inspiration and love, because true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait not even one more second, your engagement matters.